Let's see who comes in. Hey, it worked. I didn't think it was gonna. Okay, I'll give you some attention. Who is that? Who is that? Is that you? Say hi, everybody. Not a. I worked. Oh, mine is not ziggy. My brain is. I'm trying to zing my brain, but I talked to my sister for a little bit. I got back from the shop last night. Oh, midnight ish, 12:30 ish, and I fucking talked to my sister a little bit, and she's like, "I had a pot of coffee at 10 o'clock at night." I was like, "Oh, great." I told her, I was like, "Oh, fucking smoke a joint," and I did too much. I didn't smoke a joint. I smoked a bowl. I had way. You didn't miss anything. We just started. I basically just got up. I did. You guys will see something cool. I don't know. This light is crappy today. It's cloudy and trying to rain. I refinished this Curtis F3 black ceramic down in here. Polished the pivot and gave it a higher voltage or a lower voltage than the scale, so the blue was a little bit different. And I did black on the blade. But here's the cool one. Look at the pocket clip. I tried to match the pocket clip to the Coyote Brown, and I put red ceramic on the crosshairs. So now I have to sharpen it. It's got to break in a little bit. When I was doing the black ceramic, the masking agent I put across the lock bar, so the lock bar got black ceramic on it. So it's gonna take a little bit to break in. You have to, anytime you refinish the knife, it doesn't matter even if, like, I don't do crazy over the top changes to the knife itself, but you still have to re-break in the knife because it changes the surface finish interaction. Even when you're real careful, like I was real careful with it, it's still, it's gonna take some break-in time. A chicken noodle soup at 1 o'clock in the morning. My stomach doesn't feel good now. What's up, Matthias? I'm real upset with Amazon. They keep doing stupid shit. Like they left my neighbor's stuff just sit on top of the. No, they're not okay with that. Ferrum Forge has got if you modified your knife, there's a couple people you can send stuff to that will not like detract from your warranty. I can do it. Like I can refinish a knife because I'm doing it in their shop, and if I run into any problems, I ask them questions. There's another guy that's allowed to actually do like carve work and modifications to their knives, and then I'm allowed to do sharpening. Other than that, if you do any of those, I mean, you can sharpen your own knife, but outside of that, if you send it to someone or you do stuff yourself and screw it up, there's a chance they're not going to cover it under the warranty. That's self-inflicted damage. If you send it to somebody, like, okay, you send it to somebody and they fucked up and they cut the blade and then they changed some inner workings and stuff like that, and then your knife didn't function properly, like it was off center and it ground and the fucking, everything was off and it had lock rock, they're not obligated to fix something that you sent to someone else or did yourself. It's a limited lifetime warranty. Man, I'm not gonna lie, I worked on this but it came out great. I'm real happy with this. Is like I think the best I've been able to get ceramic to come out in milled lines. I think this is the best so far. And I mean, the other ones weren't too bad. And then that blade just it looks way better like this. Let's put it that way. And like I said, I put red in the. Let me see. Does turning it around help? It might. See how I got the red crosshairs? I don't like it. I really don't like the Curtis F1 or the F3. They're not comfortable. This is too big. There's not enough. It's weird. It's like there's not enough. There's too much room for just one finger, but not enough for two, and it gives it a weird in-hand feel. Let's put that away. But it's like a Spanto. Yeah, it comes. Well, it's because it's dark in here. What, the blade shape? Well, it's a Tonto. It's like it's more of a traditional Tonto. Yeah, so last night I was fucking high, and my sister sends me, "Hey, why do?" I can't remember. I'd have to look at it. It was like, why do they have barcodes on? What was it? Sis, you still here? You got to throw it to me. Fuck. Something about why do Norwegian ships have barcodes? So they can Scandinavian. And I was like, ah. It's like when they come back to port, they can Scandinavian. I was like, mm. And I laughed so hard at that retarded little kid's pun that my wife elbowed me, and I had to put my phone up. I was told shortly after that I need to shut the fuck up, put my phone away. Guys, I'm really tired. I don't want to get up. I want to go back to bed. Well, Jose, how are you? Long time no see. That's where my Tough Flight always carried, was in my hip pocket. No, I don't. Bag energy makes me jittery, and then I can't get anything done. I'm like, especially fine detail work, because I've got some to do today. I don't need that much caffeine in my system. This is what's in my pocket. I haven't had my NTAC out for a while. Figured I would give my NTAC a little bit of pocket time. This is gonna be short. I've got stuff I've got to try and do this morning. Got my 21 on a Tough Flight with me today at work. Working a lot, night shift. Going to try and Nissan Calibre Country Model 4. I forget what it was I sharpened for you before. Do you know what kind of? It depends. Sometimes they use a positive vapor PVD coating, not which is that's the positive vapor distribution or just whatever it is, any PVD. And sometimes they'll use that on stuff, but you never know what the coating is. Just PVD coating is, some, yeah. And then they do DLC, which is different because it's the diamond-like carbon coatings. So PVD's not. PVD can give you you can do positive vapor positive vapor disposition. That's what it's called. With so many. With so many different coatings, it's it can be positive in the machining industry, because if you get a PVD coating, the right PVD coating on a bit, if you're milling aluminum, it won't allow it to fucking cold weld itself to your carbide bits, weld itself, and just because it's like titanium and aluminum, they've got such a they're ductile, really ductile, and so they grab and they hold on to things, and then they fill up a file, they fill up a fucking thing like that, a file or a milling bit, and so they use PVD to put a coating on it to prevent the aluminum from actually galling and bonding to the bits. I watched a thing about that. Bolter AVE was doing it. He was talking about, you ever gummy up your flutes on your end mill, and you're like, oh crap, it's time to just fucking chuck them in the bin. He's like, don't do that. You get yourself some of this here lye crystals, and you measure out he was showing how to use lye to remove the aluminum from carbide bits. And he got into talking about PVD coatings and stuff. But that's what they use at ZT, is usually PVD or DLC, like Phil said. Which I don't like either one of them. PVD coatings, depending on what they've used as the coating in PVD, because it's a process, not a coating. It's a way to do something. It doesn't, whatever coating, just the coatings they use in general don't last as well. And then DLC is so thin that it doesn't look, so black DLC, unless it's like on a polished knife, black DLC really doesn't look that spectacular. I think that on a polished blade, however, like I said, the way that they do their stuff for the Rockstead knives, it looks amazing. But like, if you're not going to polish it, it doesn't look as good as a heavier coating. It doesn't. It looks oily. It looks thin. It's like you can see the base metal underneath it. It does last. It's a good coating. I just don't like the way it looks. A whole lot of this is gonna be happening for a while, till just everything starts to marry up. The tolerance, the allowable fucking play in Curtis, the way he drills his pivots is much tighter than a lot of other knives. And so when I put this together, it was real stiff, even with the pivot loose. And I was like, it's because I didn't ceramic the pivot, but I ceramic the blade. And there's just really no way to mask off the hole in the blade, because that's where your hook for your electric goes through. So there's always gonna be ceramic in it. And I was like, I had a fucking hell of a time getting the blade back on the actual pivot, and then got it screwed down and tight. And I was like, holy crap. And then you work it. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have to take this back apart and clean it and then re-oil it, because that ceramic is starting to just, it's wearing off with the oil that's in there. And so it just takes a little bit. And you can feel when it happens, like it's not, actions on it is almost back to where it was. But the fact is that all that ceramic residue is in the oil, and it's not gonna hurt anything, but it'll come out. No, what you're hearing is the detent. The detent ball rolling on the fresh ceramic as it's cutting it. I'm pushing real hard. And so the only thing that is really gonna, it just sounds a little funny, because I blasted the whole blade several times to get the ceramic didn't want to stick. So I'm cutting in the detent track again, because this one, it's so close to the top of the knife that had I masked that, I think these are XHP, had I masked that off, you would have seen it, and it doesn't look good. And so the option is, when the detent track is that close to the exterior, where you can be able to see it, like on some of the Reacts and stuff like that, it's better just not to mask it and then cut it back in. Just take the time, just put a drop of oil on a pivot and cut it back in. Or not the pivot, but the detemp ball. And then you don't see that. Can you notice a difference in steel when you ceramic coat it? Yes. The XHP, I have to turn the current way down, or you get, but not all the steels, not all the steels like the way the coatings go on because they conduct electricity differently. Some steels will be spotty, and so you have to play with the amperage, not the voltage. You have to play with your current a little bit. I need to go out and get my XHP and S125, S110. So XHP and S110V, they don't like to coat real well. So what you get is you'll get streaking and splotching and spots where it where you have more coating sticks in certain areas, and then you try and clean it off, and then you do it, and it does it in the same spot again, no matter how many times you clean it, and then you re-blast it, and you're like, shit, well, let me play with the current, let me see. So this one took a really good coating once I remembered that XHP, you gotta crank the voltage, their current down. And then I think it came out cool. I love the black down in the milled lines. It's just, no joke, guys, I started working on this depends on what you're going to do with it. What are you going to do with that knife? Are you going to be out chopping? Do you want like a 3V or a 3 or 4V or one of those steels? If you want to make straight razor, you want a high carbon steel. It takes a good spring temper. If you want to make a pocket knife that you're just going to use for daily carry, then a good S35 VN or 20CV, M390, XHP, if the heat treat is done well, is actually really good. That Ray Laconico I sharpen. I don't like XHP. I don't like the way it feels to sharpen. And I don't like the way the edge feels because it sometimes doesn't want to feel like it's sharp. But it does get sharp. And then so if it's gonna be a real hard use knife, maybe another 3 or 4V thing, but then you're gonna want to coat it because it'll rust. Just all depends on what you're gonna do with the knife. Bushcraft knife, you just want a high carbon Scandinavian like Sandvik steel for like a fixed blade knife, like something like that. Yeah, Wies S35VN is really good. So is though whoever does the heat treat for ADV. That ADV that I had, that I'm selling, the one that I turned into the Judge Dredd knife, those get really keen edge, but the thing is they're real thick, and so they don't feel it. 1095 is a good all-around steel for an outdoors knife. If you're gonna be doing stuff outdoors, 1095 is a good. I made a knife in. No, I did not. I had it and never got around to it because I didn't want to have to. I don't like doing the oil quench. No, that Dredd was a project that I'm selling. I told you guys, I was like, it'll happen when it happens. It's gonna happen. They have it. They're gonna do the production. I have not heard anything. When I hear that they're gonna start the production run, I will let you guys know. I'm sure that is going to let me know when the production run happens because they're gonna send me 2 more samples of the new knife that's finished. Ooh. I say, guys, I gotta go grab that oil. I'm gonna stick around long enough to put a drop of oil on this, and then I have got to go and figure out why my insurance bill stopped getting paid and my cancel got, or my what am I looking for? My policy got terminated for it's cancer insurance. that I bought through Aflac. And my policy, hang on a second, guys, I'm trying to see what I'm doing. Not gonna lie, I, as well as all of the Fair and Forge guys that hang out at the shop, including the boys, we like I like the KPL. I don't see it as being snake oil or flash pan. It fucking, the longer it's on there, the smoother everything gets. I do have my nano oil, but I don't think that this gives you as smooth for as long. But I mean, basically anything. Yeah, but I mean, I've used 3-in-1 and everything with the exception of WD-40. You don't want to use WD-40. And I mean, like, I just put KPL on this. I just put a drop of KPL on that because I never. That's the difference when we were just sitting there, and I put that drop of KPL on it. I've used Daiwa, the Daiwa rod and reel oil before too on knives. My dad always had it. He would buy it at the store for like cleaning our fishing rods. Our fishing reels. I used to fish a lot. Like me and my dad would go fishing. There'd be like fucking 12 or 13 fucking rods in the boat for 2 people. We took it serious. But I've used that on knives, but back then I didn't have a lot of folding knives or any high-end folding knives. I had a bunch of fixed blades, and this knife had a sound to it to begin with because it has a really long rock bar with a very shallow cut on it, and I put a good bit of lock bar tension on it. And so I literally was not doing anything special to it. I was not breaking into bearings. The bearings and everything were as broken as they were gonna get. I was just doing the detent ball. I put that drop on that, and you can't argue it. I've had people, it's just, and I'm like, really? Because, you know, one guy was like, it's just mineral oil, it's the same shit. And I was like, I've used mineral oil. I've got a thing of mineral oil here at the house. And I don't see the results being as good. Somebody's just like, put coconut oil. Just put coconut oil on it. Stay the fuck away from me. Plus it smells like cookies. I'm a fat kid. What do you want? Fat kid likes cookies. Yeah, there might be sound, but there's like nothing. That's the sound just because of that's the ceramic detent ball on a really broad lock bar that has a good bit of tension, but it's really thin in places. And so that sound is not. It's really coming from it's weird. And that'll dissipate over time. That is still just a little bit of the fact that I blasted. I'm not gonna lie, I blasted the blade on this. Oh, probably 4 times. And I don't know if you remember seeing pictures when I showed this before. There was a lot of nicks and dings on the spine of the blade of this knife, and I took them out. Yeah, it's definitely. What was that? A big drop of electric motor oil. I don't like I know what you're talking about, the stuff you're talking about. I do know what you're talking about. I don't like it. Here's the thing, everybody's like, wow, why are you saying it? Like, you could use this or you could use this. And I'm like, okay, the nano oil was great. It really was. But it was not designed for knives. And the fact is that like people are like, well, do you really think it works that well? And I was like, yeah, nano oil works okay, but it just is not as lubricitous, word I'm looking for. And this works better. I still have nano oil. I still buy nano oil. Quit trying to screw people. Don't fucking tell people that. There are people that will listen to you. But no, this pivot, the pivot loop, like the guy actually kind of came up with something that was what you needed for something like this, where it's not a lot of high speed temperature. Like this is meant for weapons. We have temperature buildup and things like that. You don't get that. Like I was talking to someone, well, the bearings will wear out on your knife. And your bearings are not going to wear out on your knife. You know what's going to wear out on your knife before the bearings? The blade, the handle, the pocket clip comes off, you lose the knife. Your lock bar interface is going to I hate you. But like it's not, it's meant for that. But there's no actual, you got to figure how many times. That's a half a rotation. That's not a full time around for those bearings. That's not a full rotation of that blade. That is. So every time you open and then close, that's only one. And what people are basing this, oh, your bearings are going to wear out. You have to replace those bearings. You shouldn't. You're never going to wear those bearings out. I'm telling you right now. People are used to most people base their thoughts on bearings and other lubricating fixtures and things like that, like bushings, bearings, roller bearings, thrust bearings, all those things. They base it all on vehicles. But you got to figure, in the lifetime of this knife, it will never get as much wear as your car does in a 2-hour drive to your vacation spot. That constant friction. And it's, no, you're never gonna wear it. I just, oh, you wear your bearings out. What do I do? Should I get an extra set? Because I imagine it'll wear out. I'm like, oh, you're gonna wear those bearings out. They're the hardest part on that knife. You will wear everything else on that knife out before you wear out those bearings. It's like an engine in an old Datsun pickup truck. And I'm basing this on the fact that we had one. We had an old Datsun, brown, it was a Nissan, but it said Nissan Datsun. So it was when Nissan was buying out Datsun, or when they were doing the conversion from Datsun to Nissan in the States. And so my dad had one, and you couldn't kill that fucking truck. Everything else on that truck stopped working before the engine quit. Everything. Actually, you have to maintenance them less. There's less points of contact, and the fact is, you can blow out your pivot with bearings. You cannot do that with, I love my Sebenza. But I did a video a couple years ago where, like, mine locked up. No, they're not gooder. Peter, shut up. And so, yeah, I put Peter in timeout because he's just being stupid. Bearings, okay, a bearing has a bunch of little balls. I think I've done this, I think I've talked about this before. So it's like, it's got this much surface contact across it. So 3 little points. A washer, that's all contact. How can more friction and more contact be better? Because I got news for you, you get something in there and it's gonna fuck up the works. It's gonna screw up your, like mine did, it locked up on me. And then you have to take it apart. I've dropped this knife into a bag of fucking concrete mix. And I took it in and I sprayed it out under the sink. After I blew it out with a compressor at my friend's house, blew it out, and I took it in, I put it in the sink, I rinsed it out, I put it back in my pocket, and it was fucking fine. What, on washers? The thing is, if there's more room to get stuff in, you have that same amount of room to get stuff out. You don't have to take the knife apart. So I keep trying. People are like, oh, you gotta take that knife apart and clean the bearings. I have not taken any of my Farron Forge knives apart to clean them, or any of my other bearing knives to clean them in forever. I'll run them under a hot sink, wash that out, run it back under, shake it out, blow it out, put it in my fucking pocket. If it feels like I've washed a little bit of the lubricant out, I'll put a drop from the top right here where you can see the top of the bearing race, and put a drop on each side and put it back in my pocket and let that oil work its way in. I have never had to take a knife apart to clean it that runs on bearings, with the exception of the 2 knives I have that have the ceramic bearings in the plastic race. Those ones, the multi-row bearings that I have for the multi-row bearing systems that I have in my my RIAT and that WE 601. Those use a plastic plate with actually the 601 doesn't even have a multi-row, but it does have ceramic bearings, and they're in a big flat plastic plate. And those ones you do have to take apart occasionally and clean them up. It's just because there's not as much room to blow stuff out, and therefore not as much room to get stuff back out. There's Farron Forge knives, the Microtech knives, all that. They have a big, well, matter of fact, no, my DOC's in the bedroom. I carried it yesterday, so it's on my bedstand. But I mean, you can look in there, and you could damn near, you could stick a fucking a straight pin, like for sewing. You could stick it in between the gaps of those bearings, and so now you've got a space to clean it. What are we talking about? Yeah, that's what I was saying. So if you've got bearings and there's just little points of contact, 5 little points of contact, as opposed to 2 points that are huge surface contacts that are contacting constantly. Granted, they are of a material that is designed for that, because technically they're acting as a bushing, which is a friction reducing device that does not have any moving parts. Washer is, that washer is acting as a bushing. Just like in a fishing reel, you have bushings that sit on either side. Well, the reason that they did that, okay, I will tell you why. Chris and Elliot are like, you don't need to take your fucking knife apart. But they know people are going to. So what they did was they did a video so that you guys can take your knives apart safely and not ruin things and fuck things up. That's why they did it. They're not saying, yeah, you should take your knives apart and clean them. They're just saying, if you're one of those people that takes every knife apart, like I know guys, the first thing they do, a knife shows up, they open the box, they take it apart. And I'm like, why? Do you even know how that knife goes back together? And so Chris and Elliot, to mitigate that, because they have had a lot of people contact them about, well, I took this knife apart, now I can't figure out how to get it back together. So they did a video. It saves them time. That's the only reason they did the video. They know people are gonna take their knives apart. But I like Nick, and here's the thing. Nick does that because Nick is a really analytical kind of guy, and he wants to see, and he does that basically not because he has to. He does it because he enjoys doing it. It's fun. I mean, I don't even know. I take knives apart all the time, and it is fun. Take it apart, look at the differences between one company and another, size of the detent ball that this company uses versus this one. It is fun. But a lot of times I'm taking a knife apart, not just for fun. I don't bring people's knives here to the house and then just take them apart. I don't take my knives apart for fun, but I get stuff in. I'm taking it apart for a purpose to begin with, because I'm gonna refinish it, or they want a spa treatment, or I did the sharpening and grit got down in it, I just can't get it washed out. Like on a knife with bearings, or without bearings, with washers. You know what? The knives that come to the house that without fail have got to be taken apart after sharpening if they've been heavily if they've been heavily reprofiled. There's a lot of gunk and shit out the front. OTFs, I cleaned those. No, they didn't. I modified a screwdriver with a piece of thin cellophane tape so it wouldn't scratch. So out the fronts, it is Friday. Thank you. I forgot about that. Out the fronts, always pretty much. But the nice thing, I'll show you one of the cool things. You gotta be careful with it though. It's not here either. They're all in a bedroom. So out the fronts, because the stuff gets down in and you gotta clean them. So the nice thing about the Microtex is they've got the glass breaker where you can put a metal rod through there, twist that off, take that window breaker out, and then spray, because there's no plastic parts in there, brake cleaner. The jet spray gum out brake cleaner. You just put the nozzle down in the and you just blow all the crap out. Then make sure it dries, blow some air through it, put the glass breaker and pocket clip back on, and then put a couple drops of Rem oil down along either side of that blade that's sticking out. And then it's gonna be stiff a couple times. It's probably not gonna want to deploy correctly until that Rem oil gets down in there. And so that's how I clean out the fronts. You know what knives I have to take apart every time though when I sharpen them? Knives with washers. Because that stuff gets in there and you can't get it washed out and it just feels gritty. And you're like, it's gonna get up under, it's gonna find a way for that grit to break down to a point where it can get under those washers, and then it's gonna fuck up the face of your washers. So I take them apart. Every time I sharpen a Sepenza, that fucking thing gets taken apart and cleaned. It blows, like all the crap that's in there, all the old oil and shit that the oil's caught, you just blow it out through the face of that thing and then deploy the blade, put a couple drops of Rem oil after it's good and dry. Run that thing a few times. I just did that to my Microtech. Yeah, there's a lot of crap that comes out. Hang on a second, I'll go get it. I'll show you what I'm talking about. My phone does not like to do live feeds. It gets all hot. She's asleep. They got up and were on the ice. I heard them get up. I was barely getting to sleep when I heard them get up this morning, like 3:30, to go to the ice rink that's really far away. The one that's farthest away for them. No, I was talking to somebody that works at Apple about it. I was like, and the screen, the whole thing I was telling her that, you ever notice like when you're doing like a live feed, well, I've started keeping the screen brightness down, because what's happening is to do this, I'm using all of the phone's features. I'm using the screen, I'm using the camera, I'm using the microphone, I'm using an app that I'm doing this from, and I'm using Wi-Fi, and I'm sending data, a lot of it, streaming. And so the phone gets hot, and what the processor does is it starts cutting back the capabilities of certain functions. The first one that goes is your screen light brightness. That's a real battery hog. And so to try and prevent overheating your phone, it has little safety features that this shuts down and brings down the brightness. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. Peter, I'm serious. I will put you back in timeout. I'm not in the fucking mood for it. So this is what I was talking about. Can you see the gap that's in this DOC? Between that's your bearings right there. That's the points of contact for your bearings. All I have to do is I don't even have to wash this. I can blow that out with the compressor. No problem. And even though it's dirty, because I can see the stuff in there, washers are not better. Washers are worse. Washers are like, oh, that's great, but could you? Somebody was like, hey man, that's great. Can you modify this knife to run on washers? And I'm like, no. One, you can't go from bearings to washers. The pockets are deeper, and I would have to have fucking really thick washers, or I would have to mill the scales down and flatten everything, and mill the blade down, or sand that flat to minimize that gap. And then nothing on it's gonna fucking work, or any of that. And I'm like, it won't work. There's too much room. Yeah, it's like my channel, man. But he's like, I'm like, but on top of that, I was like, okay, that's like trying to say that you want to go back to having carbureted, naturally aspirated engines. And I don't get me wrong, I love the way they sound, and I love the way a fucking carbureted engine smells. That fucking rich, little overly rich, it's got to warm up and all that stuff, but goddamn, you can't tell me the fucking carbureted engine is better than a fucking fuel injected engine that's got all the fucking shit. It might not be as easy to work on. I can't do a fucking thing in that Volkswagen. I can't even change the fucking oil. I could, but it's a fucking pain. You have to pull the oil on that Volkswagen. You gotta take it from the top. You gotta fucking take it from the top, because if not, you have to fucking you gotta take the seat out to get all this fucking shit done the right way for a lot of this stuff. And I'm like, what the fuck? It is so difficult. So I'm not gonna lie, I miss having a car that I could work on. For years, I had cars that I could just do whatever I want. I fucking did whatever I want on them. I could fucking work on them, all that shit. I can't do that on this car. But the fact is, it's still better. I like old cars, but the fact is, like I'm saying, you can't tell me that it's better. Like all this stuff we're nostalgic about. Oh, it's so much better back then. And I'm like, really? I should think about it. Oh, it's so much better. Everything was so much better back then. I'm like, I got news for you. It wasn't. You're just nostalgic. Oh, so what I was saying is you take this off, and you leave the blade in, and you just jet spray gum out, and it comes out the hole, and then you hit this here, spray that, and then you take your rem oil before you put this, you shake all that crap out, make sure it's good. Yeah, they were simpler, that's what I'm saying. And that's the, people fucking get, and so you clean it out, and then you deploy blade, and then you put a drop of rem oil here, and then one right behind your thing, and you let it soak down a second, and then you start and work it. And the action on this is way better now that I did that. It gets gummy, and like I said, the part of the reason was I used that Tough Glide. It gums up. I tried using it. I couldn't find my rem oil. So I ordered another thing of rem oil because I needed it. And I was like, maybe I'll use Tough Glide. And I gave it a fucking test on my knife. Garbage. Absolutely don't use nano oil. Absolutely not. Do not use nano oil on an auto. It'll feel great for a few seconds, and then it's done. I'm going to do an experiment. I'm going to clean that out because I want to try the KPL on it. But I want to talk to the guy at KPL first and see. I was like, has anybody really tried it in autos? Because if it works good in autos, then holy crap, it's just the all-around fucking deal. Because before I had to have this and rem oil for autos, not for autos, for out the fronts. OTFs are picky about your oil. Have you played with any of the Guardian Tactical OTFs? Bearings under the slide button. Yes, I have, and it has a completely different feel. These they feel gritty, but they put that little spring there though, that keeps your, one of the best things they did was when they started putting a spring. I remember the old school Ultratechs. They just basically, that spring really wasn't there. And so it was just like that post sat in there in that groove, and you took it apart, and they didn't have that. But now that gives it lifts it off the bottom. a little bit, it made a big difference. But yeah, the ones with the bearings under the button, they definitely feel. You're like, oh wow, that's cool. I like the new. I would like to switch this with one of the new X switches. I really do like this knife. I wouldn't carry it in a situation where I need it. I like having it, like it fits really nice in a pair of fucking pajama pockets. It's nice and light, it's thin. The big problem is I'm gonna see if I can get a replacement for this. I'm gonna talk to Jason McCoy and see if they make a replacement that's not sharp, because it's uncomfortable to carry. You bend over and stuff. I don't care, even when I wasn't as fat as I am. I would bend over and that would be pokey. And you're like, ow, oh. And then like I said, I got the little Kydex sheath for it that it goes in, and there's like this much that sticks out, but even when you carry it down, it doesn't resolve the issue. I got a keychain. I have a keychain, and on said keychain, I still have a handcuff key. This will work just fine for punching a hole in the top of a can. I finally got a 2-in-1 adapter. Finally. So now I can charge it. So I can charge my phone and still listen to fucking music. That was getting. I like the iPhones, but some of their decisions. I love iPhone because it's simple, and I don't have to fucking relearn anything when shit's changed. It's pretty intuitive, and that's what I like about it. And people are like, oh, it's just because you're a big goofy dumb guy. I was like, no, that's not it. I like things that are intuitive, where I don't have to step. A computer interface has become something I'm used to, but it was not intuitive. The GUI, your graphic user interface, it's not something that is just like, that's what happens. The gestures and using your thumb and swiping and stuff like that, that is like a natural act. That's the same thing. I want to move this. I'm going to put it here. It's the same thing. How tight do you need to ratchet down on your pivot to get your new? I don't mess with anything on a knife. I let a knife just break in. Now, if I have refinished a knife, I might crank the... because then I lose it. I would lose it. Because I was thinking about this. Like, I got this. This is for I'm going to give it to my daughter. It's a little portable straw. And it is about the same size as a fucking earpod case. And I was like, I could not have those. I have times where I can't find my fucking car keys. Fucking think it's gonna happen to this. But this is actually cool. So California's got this thing where they're putting paper straws and shit. It's a straw. I don't think it's gonna last real well. I think it's gonna get cut. I think that rubber liner. Yeah, here. Yeah. You ready for this? I haven't lost my hat when it was on my head, but I have. When my best friend Clint was waiting for me at his apartment. This has been a while ago. He still lived in his apartment. I did when I refinished it. Okay, let me back up. If I refinished a knife, this is for Peter. He's slow on the uptake because he doesn't fucking listen or use fucking punctuation. Because, guys, I'm too cool for punctuation. I'm above it. Fucking most narcissistic fucking jackass fucking thing I've ever read in a fucking email, Peter. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you, Elliot read that email. He goes, guys, is this your Peter? And I was like, yeah, that's. He's like, thanks for this. He's like, allow me to read you the most narcissistic email I've ever seen in my life. He's like, allow me to read. I was like, oh, great, here we go. And he goes, first sentence? Jesus Christ, dude, first sentence was fucking 2 minutes long. Explaining why you don't use punctuation and using the improper use of it's as the, instead of it is, you use the it's as in the possessive tense. Anyway, What I was saying was, when you refinish a knife, if you did happen to miss a spot and it got to where there was some surface finish changes on your bearing pockets or on the blade surface where the bearing sits, which a lot of times you can't mask that sometimes. Sometimes it's just almost impossible. Yeah, I will put a little extra tension on the pivot to where the blade feels stiff, and I will break it in, and then I go back and I just tighten it down. So I loosen the pivot back up after I've done that and put another drop of oil in it. And then I'll play with it until I feel that there's no more blade play this way. And I'll just tighten it to that point, and then I'll feel my action, and I stop. I don't keep cranking it down. And then I'm like, oh, my action's really stiff. Well, it's because you cranked it down too far. So, but yeah, that's only if I've done a refinish and I was unable to mask things. Some of the smaller knives are really good. The Buck, for instance, the Buck has got a really, hang on, I'll show you. So the Buck, that area in here you can mask real well, but on the face of the blade, you see there's not a lot of room because there's a pocket in here where I can drop a little bit of that masking agent and then scrape off the excess, and then it doesn't affect. It's not like trying to get a liquid masking agent on that bearing track. And so if you refinish the blade, you wind up blasting that, and then you basically have to break it back in. So you crank it down, just give it a little extra, like not like, and then strip your fucking head off of your T8 or break the head off the screw or something. Just enough to get, Jesus Christ, it's been an hour, fuck. Just enough to give you a little bit of extra on those bearings just to smooth out where it was blasted. And then it's back to smooth. And then you just loosen that up, maybe give it a washout because you've put a little extra tension there. There may be a little bit of brown or a gray stuff that winds up in your oil, which really is not a big deal. And then you just put that screw back in, tighten it till, like I said, you're not getting any blade play across this way. Stop, or a lot of times I'll put a dot of fucking Loctite on it, and I'll play with that till I get it down, and I'm like, okay, you got play, it's free action, crank it just a little bit more, all right, it's tight, and then just go back a little bit, and then stop, as long as I don't have blade play this way. And then just tighten it down and put it in the case. Just tighten it down that far, put it in the case, let that fucking Loctite set up, and you should have zero problems. Don't say when you get a brand new knife, I don't think that that's a good idea. Because a lot of times you get a brand new knife, like, that's where I got this from. The working it like this. Chris and Elliot spend hours doing that. So most times you get a knife, somebody's already doing that a bunch to do that pre-break-in for you. All right, guys, I ate off of here. I gotta take a shower. I gotta go up to the shop. I gotta do all over again. I'm doing another knife, hopefully today. I need to talk to Charles Anderson in Sweden, not Charles Anderson in Texas, about his knife that he wants me to do. So I gotta get off here. I'll talk to you guys later. There's not gonna be, I don't think there's gonna be a live feed tonight. I'm not gonna shoot another video. I do need to get Jim's knife boxed up with a couple other things and sent before I go up to shop. But I'm not going up till a little bit later because I'll be up there late tonight. And then probably tomorrow, possibly Sunday. I got a lot of stuff. I had a lot of stuff come in. Not for shy. All the sharpening stuff's done. All the sharpening stuff's done with the exception of one knife, and I'm trying to figure out exactly how I'm going to accomplish what they want. So it's been real. It's been fun, but I'm exhausted, so it ain't been real fun. Especially because Peter was here. I mean, Peter's like that guy that shows up and takes a shit in a punch bowl. Have you guys ever watched the video, Jennifer is a Party Pooper? That is some quality fucking humor. Go look it up. Jennifer is a party pooper. If you haven't already seen it, you need to just go to YouTube, type in the words Jennifer is a party pooper. It's a German dude in his car. Fucking gold.